All right, AP World History. Let's go ahead and about 15 minutes here, okay? Take on a few topics. I think we'll end up starting into a topic that we won't finish up with, but hey. All right, so we left off with Stalin now in full control over the Soviet Union. No Russia anymore. It's the Soviet Union, and the Man of Steel is running the show. All right. All right, from there we are going to jump back to Mexico. Let's go see what's going on in Mexico. Last time we left Mexico, they had their revolution. We had the Institutional Revolutionary Party now in control, and in the topic of a DBQ a few years back. We have a new basically system of rule in Mexico, and so real quickly here, how is that working out? How is that working out? Well, it's working out something like this. So the word nationalizes, remember, PRI, that's just when we take the Spanish translation of that Institutional Revolutionary Party, all right, PRI is who we're talking about. When a government decides to nationalize any kind of a business, basically what that business is saying, or that government is saying, is business, you're not a business anymore. We're taking over. The government's taking over. Okay. So, this is again, we talked about how with the Great Depression, we see this big rejection of laissez-faire economics, hands off, let the businesses do their thing, that kind of, and we see the government jump in and take control. This is another example of it going on right here. Okay, the Mexican government, there's all these different businesses operating. Some of them are Mexican owned, but there are a lot of foreign businesses going on in Mexico. Some of them are oil businesses that are operating in Mexico. And what this new government does once they've got control and power going is they start taking them over. All right, pretty much telling the owners of those businesses, your time here is done. Pack your bags, go back home, and we'll take over the factory from this point. Okay, and there we go. That's going to be a big move that is going to, is definitely going to have some benefits to the Mexican economy because it's keeping the money in the country instead of profits from some of these businesses, corporations, being taken to the United States and other places. And so you got that. Of course, you also have on the flip side that. Good luck trying to get any more foreign investment to come into your country because, they're not going to want to run the risk of I go in and I invest, into building, manufacturing or, factories or agricultural projects, and then the government takes it from me. So there's kind of a double-edged sword there, right? On the social side of things, the revolution that had taken place earlier in the 20th century against Diaz had made some pretty not so vague promises about the fact that that the revolution was also going to address the social ladder in Mexico, which again, like many of these other countries, we've got this kind of wealthy elite up at the top that have control over most of the land and most of really just kind of anything worth anything, and then the mass of the people down below, just kind of trying to just survive. The revolution had promised to upend that system and to change it. Okay, in reality, not much changes on this. Right, Mexico will see very little in the way of any measurable improvement when it comes to that. You're still going to have kind of a wealthy elite. And you're still going to have a lot of the Mexican population that never sees the promise of this revolution really come to fruition, and they continue to live some fairly challenging lives. All right, that's Mexico. Okay, now we're going to move away from countries, and we are going to start getting some of the backgrounds here to some of the more direct, I guess, really, like better, direct causes of World War II, right? And so we're going to start with a new political ideology, all right? When I use that term ideology, right, that's just kind of, it's a way of thinking. It's kind of having a sense of how you believe the world should run, how, individual countries should be run. When we talk about the ideology, it's it's just where your priorities lie and those kinds of things. And fascism is going to be a brand of political ideology that we've learned about versions of this before, going back to some of the absolutist kings of France and beyond there, some of the monarchies that operated. But this is going to become unique in some very different ways. And so I'm going to use this slide to pretty much just kind of run you through kind of what it is. Okay. Notice the image up here in the corner. You got kind of like these. What you're seeing here is a bunch of little sticks, and they're all bundled together. And it's the idea that individually we don't have a lot of power individually, but bound together, all right, united, there is power. And then this represents a blade, because there's always going to be a side of fascism that promises a certain level of violence. Okay. That we use that united front that we create by bundling those sticks together, and we follow it up with the threat of violence if we to obtain the goals that we have. And we're going to see the rise of a couple of major fascist governments in Europe, and then we'll also see some little experiments with fascism in other parts of the world as well, including here in the Western Hemisphere. So here we go. This will probably take the bulk of our 15 minutes, okay? So these are some characteristics for you to think about. This is, again, it's a form of government is the way we're going to think of fascism ruling forward here. A form of government, okay? Pardon me there. Nationalism is going to play a major role when we think of fascism. Hyper-nationalism, some people would say, where it's just there's this extreme, glorification of all the the history and the power and the glory of the nation itself, and then a real major. Hold on, just a sec here. There we go. I'm back. Sorry. Advice: when you're shooting video shoots, you shouldn't be eating fishy crackers, and one got caught in my throat. I had to just kind of choke it out of there. Anyhow, a real obsession with a show of military power, another feature of fascism. Fascist leaders oftentimes they wear military uniforms to basically to project that kind of military power. They conduct it's like every holiday, at every drop of a hat, you're having these major demonstrations of your military marching through the streets, displaying all their newest tanks and guns and everything. This real emphasis on military power combined with this, again, what I would call extreme or just hyper nationalism. And the nationalism definitely takes on a tone of our country is better than yours. Not only do we have that, we identify with each other, we are united, we are one, but there's also this sense of we are exceptional and we are better than you. All right. Some of that kind of thing going on. All right. Next. Yes. The use of violence and dissent. Not dissent, probably usually to violence to squash out dissent. It is completely embraced in fascist systems that violence is just one of the other options you have on the menu on how to gain, how to make your goals come true, how to achieve your goals, how to, again, whatever it is you're aiming to do. If you need to make use of violence, it's totally justified, especially if it's all towards, the idea of creating a stronger, better nation. Okay. On the flip side of that is that in a fascist system, there is zero dissent allowed. Okay. Again, dissent, people who protest, people who, hey, I'm not in for this. This is not what I wanted. I mean, can we hear another voice? And no, you cannot actually. Okay. Dissent is going to result usually in the use of violence against you, whether it's going to be a beat down in the streets or whether it's going to be hauled off somewhere by police or secret police, organizations that are waiting in the shadows to use violence to create order in a fascist kind of a system. All right, authoritarian dictators also a feature of this. Now I've got Stalin over here, okay, and we just talked about him. He's communist, and while he displays characteristics of these fascist leaders, fascism oftentimes is going to see itself completely at odds with the political ideology of communism. Okay, so never, ever, ever attempt to write about Joseph Stalin as a fascist. You're going to have some AP reader going, uh-oh, got a problem. You can write about him being an authoritarian. You can write about him being a dictator. I mean, you can use those kind of terms to describe him. But he is kind of hiding behind that cloak of communism to push his version, of this authoritarian dictatorship. Okay, your other two you have pictured there: Adolf Hitler in the center and Benito Mussolini of Italy over there on the right side. Those are going to be your best examples when you are ever asked to share what you know about fascism. They are going to be basically Exhibit A and Exhibit B of what an authoritarian dictator looked like, and utilizing fascism to control a country. Okay, but these are the leaders, and to kind of all three of these guys are going to kind of develop what we call kind of like a cult of personality. They're very charismatic. They know what to say to their people to get them on their side, and they create almost like this worship of them, and they definitely play into this by, their images being plastered all over their countries, statues, just calendars with their pictures on it. People will just, ordinary people will just have portraits of these leaders hanging in their house. Okay, there's the kids, and there's Uncle Bob, and Aunt Irma, and there's a picture of Joseph Stalin, just hanging right in there with him too. That all kind of gets into the kind of leadership that these guys create. Very, very, a lot of charisma, very aggressive, kind of alpha male kind of power going on there, and they use that to lure their people in, all right, their supporters, and then to kind of build from there. Fascism will also make a very, very active use of the media, okay, which, in the early 20th century, it's still kind of crude, but, you've got radio, you've got film is rapidly expanding as a new form of media. By the end of the 1920s, you'll have sound film, and so it won't just be the old black and, the silent movies. You'll have sound as well, and you will see a lot of these dictators, a lot of these fascists, especially Hitler and the Nazis, will, oh my goodness, they become artists at propaganda, and basically just pounding messages into the minds of Germans that mold them into the way that the leaders want them to think. Okay, that we have shared enemies, that we have all of this kind of thing that we all share together. Okay, so you got that happening. And then this grievance, what I call a grievance mentality. You're oftentimes going to find with these fascist leaders that they identify problems within the country, and that that the people of that country, they're the people that they lead, have been wronged in some way. Okay, and it's one of the easiest ways to get people on board with you. I'm miserable, you're miserable, and it's not our fault. It's that kind of thinking. And then to go beyond that to say it's their fault. All right. You always select a group that can be the other. And the other is typically going to be, they're the people who are at the root of all of your misery. And if you can make those people go away, then just by logical thinking, life will get better. All right. And so we see with a lot of these leaders that they're going to point the finger at some group or another. Obviously, we know most of us don't know even a whole lot about Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Know that people of the Jewish faith is what they decided were the people that were the problem. And if the Jews were gone, life would be better. And that leads them to end up taking on some just horrific actions. And so, a lot of times that grievance mentality is aimed at like an ethnic minority, a group like that. Okay. All right. I know I'm watching the clock, and might as well. I'm not gonna go any further. When we get back into this together, we will look at Benito Mussolini, and we'll look at the experience of Italy with fascism. And then from there we're going to look at fascism in Spain, and we'll come on over to the Western Hemisphere for a little odd little experiment with fascism down in South America. And then we'll keep marching it along, okay? Actually, we're going to save Hitler and the Nazis for a little bit later on. All right, that'll cover you for now. Look at that, 1509, 1510. I did it. There we go, for once. Okay, we'll see you next week.